Hello, my friends. Welcome once again back to the cottage kitchen at the Elliott homestead. We had the most glorious weather this past week. It was hot and we were cooking outside and we were cooking from the garden. Just such an inspiring time of year. So I thought we would do the same with you today and make a really wonderful grilled lamb recipe. Now, a lot of people have never tried good lamb. People tell me that they don't like eating lamb all the time, but not all lamb is created equal. We eat a ton of lamb here, mostly lamb, because that's what we grow here on our farm. So every year we raise our lambs and we butcher in the fall every year. So the freezer is always full of lamb, which is such a wonderful gift. Oftentimes what people I think mean when they say, I don't like this meat or that meat, is that they maybe don't know how to cook it well. And if you have never eaten lamb before or you're really not sure how to cook it, I hope that this dish inspires you to do just that. When we were in Sicily, we went through the markets in Palermo, and they do eat a lot of lamb there, and they know how to eat it very, very well. And they would skewer it and then cook it on a grill, and it was so wonderful. So we are going to make our own little version of those lamb skewers right here on our little farm with a wonderful mint sauce. We have mint going crazy right now in the herb garden. And it just so happens that we need to prune our grapes, which is the perfect time to do skewers the way that we love to do them, which is making them out of grapevines. And that might sound a little overzealous or a little silly to do, but it's so worth the time. This is the kind of stuff that's really fun to put your hand to. So let's make it. I have some lamb sirloin steak here. This is a common cut that we get every year when we get our lambs butchered. Some years we butcher our lambs ourselves, and sometimes we have them butchered, depending on what our schedule is like and how many we have to do. We have quite a few more than normal this year. And when you homeschool, fall can be a tricky time. So we'll see. But these are just some beautiful lamb steaks. And these ones have bone in, which is fine. I love to cook steaks with bone in, but we're making something a little bit different today. Now, one of the best things about lamb is how good the fat tastes when it's been charred on the grill. And it's one of those meats to me that you can really tell where it originated. So, for example, in North Africa, they really know how to cook lamb. Same in the Middle East. They've just perfected it. And so it really plays well with fire and a lot of the spices that they traditionally cook their food in. We're going to be taking it a little bit of a different direction today, a little bit more of a Sicilian direction today. And I'm going to start by just sort of cutting this into fairly small pieces, maybe about an inch. And sirloin steak is not a tough cut. Look at the beautiful color of this meat. And this has been in the freezer this year, and it's still just beautiful. But this isn't a tough cut of meat. This is nice and tender. And so we don't really need to worry too much. We'll just add it right to that plate there. We don't need to do too much to it to make it taste good. These are going to cook so fast. So really, this is my only prep work here. And I want the fat on here because fat is flavor, fat is nourishment, fat is so good for you, and it gives it just absolutely remarkable flavor, especially when it's been done on the grill. So we want all of that. Actually, I was really inspired to make this dish. Every month, I have a call with my cooking community members where they can hop onto a Zoom call with me, and we just talk. We talk about all kinds of different stuff every month. But we were talking about meat and how people still really struggle with knowing how to cook meat and what cut of meat to cook. And, you know, it's one of those things that, especially if you're raising animals, you have to figure it out because you have to learn how to use all the different pieces of it. And so what's fun about a recipe like this is I'm using sirloin steak, but there's lots of other different cuts you could use for this as well. If you're using a tough cut, which they often do in places like Sicily, and oftentimes they use mutton too, so like a really older, developed, flavored animal. A mutton would be a sheep that is maybe you're retiring from your flock, so she's probably been around a while. These are really traditional to make with mutton. This is nice tender lamb. But the point is that you're making use of everything that you have and nothing's going to waste. So not all steaks that you'll make this with, or not all cuts of meat will have a bone in, but it is common when you butcher your own animals to have a lot of bone-in cuts. So obviously we can't grill this, but this is a really wonderful treat for your dog. Or you can roast it in the oven and make a beautiful broth out of it. So it's not going to go to waste either way. None of this is going to go to waste. When it's nice outside, it's one of our very favorite things to do, to cook outside. So dinner time often looks like putting some really good music on the speaker, pouring a glass of wine, and we just go outside and we cook. And oftentimes one of the kids will go off with a basket and they'll gather up vegetables or herbs or whatever it is we need. And then we eat outside. So this is the perfect time of year to do this because in the summertime, you do get a lot of flies. But this time of year, it's still really lovely. Now, even if you can't get lamb, you could do this with beef or bison. That'd be delicious. You could do it with venison, elk, all kinds of meats. Okay, really simple so far. We're going to marinate this lamb just for a little bit of time in some red wine. This is going to help the meat to hold moisture. It's going to give it flavor. And that's what we want ultimately from our lamb. So I often use little dregs left in the bottle, and maybe I'm alone. Maybe most people don't have dregs, but oftentimes we just have a little bit left in a bottle, and I always save it because you can always use it for a risotto or for something like this. So I believe traditionally lamb skewers in most parts of the world are kind of basted or drenched in a wine after they've been grilled, but I like to do mine before. So that's what I'm going to do because this is my kitchen. And then the herbs we're going to do are really wonderful. These are actually all Sicilian herbs. You guys have probably heard me talk about Bona Fortuna before, but if you haven't, please check them out. They are such an incredible company, and they've worked really, really hard to farm things in an organic and biodynamic way that genuinely enhances the environment that these farming practices are going on. So they make incredible herb blends. Most all my herbs I grow in my own herb patch, which we'll go out to in a minute. I don't keep a lot of pre-made blends in my cupboard, but these ones I really do because they're so good, so dialed in that it's just way easier for me to grab one thing instead of 10 things. So I'm actually going to be using 2 of Bona Fortuna's herbs for this. One of them is called Mama Rose's Herb Blend, and this one has sea salt, brown sugar, savory basil, black pepper, oregano, rosemary, marjoram, garlic, and cloves. So you can grab all of those if you'd like and just sprinkle a little of each on your meat skewers. But I'm just going to give these a little bit of a sprinkle. And then I'm going to be using another one as well, which is just another herb blend that has parsley and chili and sea salt and a little bit more garlic. I wanted a little bit of chili, and I do love the parsley. So we're going to just season these up a little bit. It's incredible. Even though we're not going to give these a ton of time, just enough time for us to go get our skewers from the grapevines. A little bit of time in some wine and some salt and some herbs does wonders for meat. And then lastly, I'm also going to use some of Bona Fortuna's olive oil. And this is going to, again, help keep the meat moist and then help it to char up really nicely when we do put it on the grill. And I want it to char. I want it to look like it's been cooked on a grill. I want the fat to get all nice and charred and wonderful. So that's it. Give it a toss because we don't want to leave any pieces out. And then I'm going to let this hang out for probably about 30 minutes while we go get our skewers ready. This is the really fun part. And if you have company coming or you have kids that need a job to do, this is the perfect one for them. Okay, the lamb is skewered and marinating, it's smelling so good. And the grill is heating up, which means really one of my only jobs left is to make a mint sauce to go over top of the lamb. And if you don't have time for this or you don't have fresh mint, don't worry about it. That is going to be delicious as is. But because I have a sea of mint, I like to use it whenever I can. And it's fun to find recipes that use up a lot of an herb because you can see how much flavor they can bring to a food. And lamb and mint are just meant to go together, regardless of what herbs you put on it. But this will just kind of give it a nice, bright, herby herbaceousness. So I'm going to use about 2 cups of fresh mint leaves. These are so mint flowers. And one of the reasons that I grow it is because the bees love it so much when it flowers. And so this is as good as mint gets right here, right now, because it will go to flower and then the leaves will get much smaller. So if you grow it for tea or anything of the sort, this is the time of year you want to harvest it. We talked about this a couple of videos ago, but sometimes it can seem a little counterintuitive. If you're feeling really uninspired in the kitchen or you feel like you're always cooking meat the same way or you just haven't done anything exciting in there in a while, it can sort of keep you from wanting to go in and do something fussy, like making your own skewers or making a homemade mint sauce. That can just seem like too much work. But oftentimes it's those little pockets of beauty and inspiration and something different that kind of jolt you out of that numbness and make you excited about what you're doing in the kitchen again. And because we eat lamb so often, there are times when I need to do this as well, when I need to remind myself, hey, you love this, and there are really delicious ways to enjoy this food. I'm just going, aren't I? I'm just talking and not doing this. All right, so to my mint, I'm just going to add a little bit of some freeze-dried garlic. That's last year's crop. I'm going to add a little bit more of the Ayo Oyo herb blend from Bona Fortuna, just to give it a little bit of salt, a little bit of greatness, and a little bit of chili. And then just also a little bit of olive oil. I love this olive oil so much. There are really herby, bright, green tasting olive oils, and there are really buttery olive oils, and I love the buttery kind. Bona Fortuna has a lot of different olive oils, and they do a good job of describing them, so you can pick which one you like, but those buttery ones are my favorite. I may have gotten a little overzealous here. Surprise, surprise. What we have now is a really beautiful herby mint concentrate. So I'm going to add in a little bit of red wine vinegar because we want some acidity to counter that yummy charred fat from the lamb. I want to preserve all this freshness coming from the mint, so I'm not going to put this on until after the lamb is grilled, and then I'll just brush it on lightly right before we eat it. A little bit more olive oil too. That's perfect. So Stu's gonna grill the lamb. I'm gonna get a big old pot of polenta boiling on the stove so we can have it with the lamb, and then we'll eat. This is my favorite part. Look at this. Beautiful, charred. It's going to be delicious to eat. I hope you give it a try. Enjoy.